I am here with someone I consider a friend and someone who is an amazing storyteller that I've had the privilege of doing seasons of shows with for the past few months. It's been absolutely incredible going on this journey with you. Justin, how the heck are you doing?
So good. So good, Daniel. So excited to be here. So thrilled. Wow, yeah. Can't wait to get into it.
Heck yeah. You are one of the two founders of So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master, which can be found as a podcast wherever you find your podcasts. There's also a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, TikTok channel, all those different things. But you're doing podcasts, you're doing actual plays with a new one coming out very
Yeah.
soon. Uh, so, with all these things that you were doing in the tabletop role playing space, my question is, how do you get there when you started in med school?
Mm. I didn't get to med school
Well,
quite
you
yet. Pre-med was as
pre med
far
is
as
where
I
you're at,
got.
yeah.
So like, yeah, wow. Okay. So I was pre-med, University of Maryland, class of 2013. And senior year-ish, when like you really got to start looking at med schools and how you're going to pay for that, and I'm already hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, right? Because I'm out of
Yeah.
state, so I don't get the nice in-state tuition. And then it just became clear that I didn't have my heart in the field of medicine for no other real reason than the business side of it that I don't like.
Mm,
So like, you have family members get hurt on the job and they have to deal with workers' comp and seeing 5 doctors, and 3 of them are like, "You're fine, actually." And 2 are like, "You need intense spinal surgery now." And so
yeah.
then the insurance companies and all this other stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. I hate it, actually. But
Because
you can't.
what was it that initially, like, brought you into it? What was
I
the
love
initial thing that
science. I love biology, and like I like learning things, and the memorization of facts, and the human body is incredible because it's like this one insane masterpiece of puzzles that all fit perfectly together,
yeah.
with the exception of like autoimmune diseases and a million other
Well, you know,
catastrophic design failures.
there's
But
a few exceptions that go a little
some things
awry.
some things go really well, and then like autoimmune diseases where your body's like, I'm gonna attack myself, actually. um and yeah, so it's just I love the subject matter so much.
Yeah.
And then it was also the dual fold idea of like, not only does it make a ton of money, so it's like a good career prospect because you're
Mhm.
17, 18, choosing this for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
but also you help people and you're like, that'll be nice. I like that idea. I had a good family doctor growing up, from like childhood all the way up to like writing me letters of recommendation for colleges, my
Wow.
pediatrician. So like, you know what I mean? That was like a big part of it, is like, man, that would be so cool to like
It
have
is a big part of your
customers, if
life.
you will, be like this huge part of your life. That's a
Yeah.
cool idea. And that's the type of doctor I would have gone into, is like just general care physician.
Practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah, just normal. Just come see me for your strep throat, and all the other stuff, go to the hospital. Like
Yeah.
the basic stuff. And yeah, and then just slowly fell out of love with it over time. Still love the classes themselves. Like
Mhm.
going to school for it was awesome. Just learning about it is so fun, especially the upper level classes, like learning all the different ways that senses work and the action potentials and how drugs affect different things, and how pufferfish have tetrodotoxin and how it stops action potentials from happening, so your muscles can't unconstrict. So the way that pufferfishes are killing you is suffocation, essentially, because your diaphragm can't move. Like learning all this stuff in a science class is like dope,
So
but
you
it's just
have
not.
all of that and then capitalism.
And then capitalism fought me for the first
Yeah.
time that I knew of, that I was
Then
conscious
the
of my
Fire Nation
enemy.
attacked, yeah.
Yeah, big time, man. Whoa, that's rough, buddy. And so that pushed me into being like, man, I'm at college. I'm spending all this money, and depending on the university you're at, the college you're at, whatever, and like your situation, whether you're a full-time or a part-time student, where I was at was as a full-time student, whether I take 4 classes a semester or 6, my cost is the same, right? I'm not
Mm,
paying extra for the extra classes. So I started to overload. I started going nuts. I was like,
mm,
let me get a major, or like a double major, let me get a minor, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll explore
mm,
these weird, dumb classes that they're not going to help towards degrees, but who gives a shit? I'm just milking this for all it's worth. And that's what led me into getting English as a double major, which led me into delving real deep into Shakespeare, which
mm.
led me to a drama class where it was like, here are these plays, but instead of just reading them in class, we're going to stand on stage and act them out.
Yeah.
And we were doing that in front of audiences, and I was like, fuck, I love this. This is so fun. I would have done this in high school, but I don't like to sing. And all of
Mm.
my particular high school,
A
all
lot
they
of
did were
musicals.
musicals. So
Yeah.
it was like I have zero interest in that. But if they had done, you know, fucking To Kill a Mockingbird or something
Mhm.
like insane, like that would have been dope. I would have
Yeah,
done
my wife,
Streetcar
she's a
Named
theater
Desire all day.
teacher, and they're doing the play that goes up this weekend is Diary of Anne Frank. They're
Whoa.
it's and considering the
I've
current
heard of
social
it.
climate, it's the premiere just happened yesterday, so it's been a heavy. It's been heavy.
Wow.
But
Yeah, I
so you're
bet.
falling in love as you're overloading yourself, your workload. You're
Mhm.
falling deeper and deeper in love with language and literature and performance. At the same time, you're falling out of love with the medical industry as
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the rearing face of capitalism becomes more pervasive in it.
Yeah.
So, at what point do you make that jump where you're like, yeah, let's just, I've been playing D&D. Let's try to
Oh, I
upload a
haven't been
video.
playing D&D yet.
Oh, really?
I don't start playing D&D for, like, another 10 years after that.
Wow.
Literally.
So
Like,
you were
yeah,
part of
figure
the pandemic club
pretty much.
around the
Yeah, I think I started
2020s.
playing right before the
Yeah,
pandemic.
yeah, yeah.
Like 2018, maybe, yeah, 2017 the earliest, but I think
Mhm.
closer to 2018 maybe.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah,
We
it was
started
like
around the same time.
yeah, it was yeah, I started with 5th edition. I've never experienced any older editions or anything, and I was always consumed by, like, nerd culture. I was always
Mhm.
into fantasy and Lord of the Rings and all this different stuff, but, whether it was the way media painted it or my own preconceived notions of D&D, it was, like, a step too far in the nerd
Yeah.
direction. It was
That's
freaks and
too
geeks.
nerdy.
I'm not dressing up, I'm not LARPing. It was like, I have a reputation to uphold, which is false. But yeah, and then I think it was honestly as much as easy as it is to give credit to like Critical Role and stuff like that, which is was a gateway, but it was the thing that pushed me to D&D and Critical Role was listening to the audiobook read by Will Wheaton of
Mm.
Ready Player One by Ernest
Yeah.
Cline. There's there it's I mean, it's if you're looking for just like a dumb, fun action kind of book, it's awesome. There's so many 80s references, and there's just like a point in the thing where they go to like a D&D adventure, and it's the Tomb of Horrors and you're fighting
Mhm.
Sararak and all this different stuff, and there's just D&D references, and they start to talk about it as the original video game. D&D and
Mm.
role-playing games were the original video games, and you track your stats and you do all this stuff, but it's with pen and paper instead of computer. But then like also the idea that you can't save the game. This is the way the story has. You go down the left tunnel or the right tunnel. If you chose the left tunnel, that's the way the story has always been
Yeah.
and will always be. You can't go back and try. I mean, you can, but you've already gone down the left one. And so thinking about it looking at it from a different light of just there's already so much here that I enjoy.
Mhm.
And then finding Critical Role and being like just continuing the like justification of like, this has everything. It has the
that
acting,
I
the
love.
storytelling, doing silly voices, which I've done my entire life for no
Yeah.
reason other than it's funny. And then fantasy, monsters. I get to learn about monsters. That's fucking sick. Like, as cheesy as it is, the first time I opened up the monster manual and I saw that there was a type of genie for each element type, I was like, well, that's sick. Cool. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Jinn are the air ones. Then there's the Afridi, and oh, it's dope. I'm in.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
from there, it was, how do I fucking find people to play? How do I play?
Mm.
Because no
The
one in my real
question
life
everyone
wanted to
asks.
play, and yeah, and that led me to Roll20, which led me to an online group, which led me to having issues with the DM because of value differences,
Mm.
and then which led me to being a forever DM.
Mm.
Fast forward all those years, I eventually get a job at a swim school. I'm like more on the business sales side.
Yeah.
And so I would never be in the pool, for example. Like I wore
Mm.
nice clothes and I'm on the outside chit
You
chatting
go,
parents.
ugh, ugh,
You know what I mean?
chlorine.
I'm not getting wet. I'm not getting wet. And I would chit chat with parents, and I meet a couple of parents, and they start talking about D&D, and I'm like, I love D&D.
Mm.
We talk, we're similar ages, we link up. I meet a friend of theirs who's Taylor.
Mm.
And Taylor and I had never met in person. We hadn't even seen each other's faces. Like, I didn't even know
Yeah.
what he looked like because we always played virtually and only audio, just because of like
Mm.
spoons, and just sometimes you don't want to be on freaking camera, right? So we always
Yeah.
played no cameras, which I'm down for in certain home games. I love playing on camera now, but at the time it was perfect. And we played together for like 3 years before eventually being, I think we actually almost started this podcast earlier,
Yeah.
and there was another person involved, and then they ended up being insanely bad. And
Mm.
then it progressed to being like, hey, remember that podcast idea? Let's freaking go for it.
Let's
And I
just
had already
do
been
it.
running a podcast with my sister for a year and a half that
Mm.
was about movies and film and TV shows and all kinds of random topics from the perspective of two people who don't have like technical experience. Like,
Yeah.
I've never been a documentary maker, but let's talk about documentaries as if, we're just
let's
two random Joes talking
let's
about
dive
it.
in. But I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, you have this journey that it seems like all of these random pieces, but we're laying the groundwork for the path that you ended up to where you are right now. And you and Taylor are running the ship. You are going full steam ahead with, so you want to be a DM, you've got shows, you've got merch now. But I mean, none of this works unless that foundation is there between you and Taylor. And I've
Mm-hmm.
worked with you all on productions, and that rapport and that relationship y'all have is absolutely incredible. So what is it that feels like that little like magic that happens between you two to make this happen?
Yeah. Honestly, I think because there were times in the beginning we probably got started before we even really knew each other that well.
Mm.
And that is probably ill-advised. It ended up working out, so it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
However, like, at the depth that I now know Taylor as a person, as a friend, as
Mm.
a business partner, I feel confident that we made the right choices, and that we're like, oh, thank God, I have a good partner in this.
Yeah.
But probably should have done more homework before we started. Regardless, what I would say that I think keeps us super aligned is just, honestly, we have so many similarities
Mm.
when it comes to our visions for what we would like to do.
Mm.
And we also give each other the space to be able to explore different things, even if the other one is like, that's not really a project that I'm super all about, but like, you can pursue it, go for it,
Yeah.
or something of that nature. And we share a lot of the same like deep, serious values.
Mhm.
So like I don't have to worry about being like, hey Taylor, is it okay if I go do this pro-Palestinian charity drive?
Mhm.
I know Taylor's on board. He wants to get involved. He wants to
Yeah.
be a part of it as well. That's nice to not have to really stress about like, oh, wait a minute, who did you vote? Where were you on January
Who
6th?
are you?
Like, I don't have to worry about
What are your core values?
yeah, like you said, what about RFK? I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about things too much, and that's really nice.
Mm.
Especially like obviously having somebody like myself dancing this interesting line of appearance wise having all of the privileges.
Mhm.
White, like male passing or mask presenting or however you want to
Yeah.
phrase it. And like if I didn't paint my nails or wear giant earrings, you would just be like, boom, straight, cis het,
Mm.
done, and be over with it. So I have a lot of like presentational privileges in addition to just like being white. There's nothing I'm not can't change that.
Yeah.
So that comes with its own thing. And so having Taylor have the bandwidth to be able to recognize his own and also have space for my things, like it took us a little bit of time before I recognized that it has now become second nature for Taylor to call me they them in conversation
Mm.
with other people. And like in the beginning people make mistakes. It's going to happen all the time. I'm so
Yeah.
used to it. Most of the time it's completely accidental. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. But it means a lot to see Taylor make the effort.
Mhm.
You know, like there was a time he called me after like we did a group interview, like the two of us did a little interview for something, and he like messaged or called me afterwards and was like, dude, because we've already agreed. That's another thing. We've had a conversation between the two of us of like, I'm personally okay with people calling me like dude and in certain contexts, bro, but it has
Yeah.
to be like the way you say it. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I don't want you to call me bro because we're brothers. It's like I
Yeah.
want
It's that fraternity, like friendship
yeah, it's
way,
just
not
the
in
way
the
you say it.
because yeah, dude can come off as like relating to you in the gendered way, but also it can just be in the
Yeah,
general
yeah,
like,
yeah.
dude, what are you talking about?
Exactly. That's the
It's so
difference.
many
There's like
ways.
there's so many nuances with language and it's
Yeah.
beautiful and like, there if you talk to most either femme presenting or femme identifying female women,
Mm.
most of the time they don't care if you address a crowd of all different genders as hey guys.
Yeah.
Most of the time they don't care. They're like, yeah, it is whatever. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Mm.
But if I say to a friend, hey, I hooked up with a guy versus hey, I hooked up with somebody versus hey, I hooked up with a girl or
Yeah.
something, right? They have their connotations.
Right.
When I say hey, I hooked up with a guy, people are putting,
Put
connections together. They're
put two together.
assuming that it's a male.
Yeah.
So there's like nuances in how language is used in the context and stuff. So like it's been a fun journey. And I think Taylor is like his willingness has been like really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not to mention just seeing him get outside of his own comfort zone. Like when we first started, there was an entire question of whether Taylor would ever be on camera because he wasn't super
Mm.
comfortable with it. And now he's been in 7 actual plays with us and
Yeah.
guest spots and other people's podcasts and all kinds of stuff. So it's like, and then that has even translated into our home games. I've had the other players in our home games comment on Taylor coming out of his skin and getting more into the RP of the sessions and stuff. And so it's been awesome.
Yeah. Just speaking on Taylor, he's so committed to whatever the whatever the
Yeah.
scenario is, as crazy as it might be. He's always committed roleplay wise, which I absolutely love. But the journey has gone on for quite some time, and that brings us to where you are now, returning back to your first series, if I'm not mistaken, your
Mm-hmm.
first actual play series, with its second
Yep.
season being Sphynx City, your magical version of New York. but to the extreme of all the classic D&D races, magic items, a lot of its lore has woven its way into this version of New York. So just kind of give us the pitch on how Sphynx City came to be.
So, Sphinx City comes from a combination of things, as I think most good things do, just
Mm,
in that that you can draw inspiration from so many topics and memories and experiences. Why not take many of them and put them into one? So there's a lot of points of influence, but partly I'm born and raised and currently live in New Jersey, so I have a certain romanticism about New York City as it is. So I
mm,
just like the city. And when I say I romanticize the city, what I mean is I love all of it. I love the kind of dangerous areas. I like the rats. I like the litter in the streets. I like the grime of the subway. I like the weirdness of seeing a half naked cowboy in Times Square. I like it all. And then to take that and mix it with the tropes and expectations of a D&D game in that there is magic and it has always been a part of it. So obviously around this time I witness Dimension 20 and they come out with a series called Unsleeping City. I
yeah.
think I would be remiss if I don't at least mention it. There's obvious inspirations drawn from that, but I wanted to do it in a different way and I wanted to do it justice. So I don't know New York City at the level that Brendan Lee Mulligan knows New York City. So I can't make of trillions of references to Stuyvesant Park or like really specific areas,
All right.
you know? So I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to make it's not New York City with magic. It's what if New York City always had
Always was.
magic
Yeah.
and evolved alongside it. So you're just as likely to see somebody with a cell phone surfing the internet as you are to see a fire elemental on the corner cooking hot dogs with their bare hands
Mm,
and just handing them out to people or something. Like I just love the idea of combining fantasy with the city aspect, this urban modern lifestyle. I mean, we've seen it in pop culture before, right? Like
yeah.
even Shrek gets close to it sometimes. There are points in Shrek that are a little bit more modern.
Hmm.
Like little jokes like when they go to the amusement park and he has to walk through the little line or like
Yeah.
the scene in the second one where they get arrested and they show up on the TV show Cops.
Hmm.
And it's just like all those little references, it just made me realize there isn't that much that I would have to change about the system
Hmm.
to be able to combine these two ideas of doing a modern New York City style city combined with D&D stuff.
So how do you
So
find
then,
that line, right, of inspiration? Like, how do you? Because you often like ride this line perfectly of taking inspiration and taking things that people know or tropes that we know and subverting them. How do
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
take all those inspirations without feeling that sense of imposter syndrome, like you're just copying what other people have done?
Yeah, 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 for sure. I think part of it is the fact that I'm doing it. I'm executing.
Mm,
I think people talk about it, but it's like, where are you? Are you doing
yeah.
it? Are you actually like walking the walk as opposed to just talking the talk? We can all talk about being like, man, Dimension 20's season of Unsleeping City was great. This is the character I would have played. Here's how I would have done it. Da, 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 da.
Mm,
Do it. Put your money where your mouth is. And so that is what gives me no imposter syndrome whatsoever about stuff like that. Is honestly just like the self belief of like, I'm doing it. I'm actually
yeah.
like, I have 30 pages of what Sphinx City is, all the deities, all this stuff. I've put in all the time. I feel like if I were to find somebody who's never seen Unsleeping City and they played Sphinx City, they would pick up on the New York references and everything like that. But I don't think there's so much that has changed between the two because the Unsleeping City had such a huge mechanic in the fact that there was New York and the sleeping city and do you know how the magic system was
Mhm.
involved with the normal mortals of New York City? Like that
Yeah.
was such a huge part of it that I think that's the thing is you just
Makes it
change it
so
enough
distinct.
until it's like, yeah, now I don't feel bad at all. It's like when you have a gift from an ex, and after a certain amount of time, you're like, "Ah, I can ride this beach bicycle, this beach cruiser. It no longer has any connection in my mind to my ex. So now it's free. Now it's mine."
There you go. It no longer has the same meaning. I promise. But no, it is a difficult thing because oftentimes there's so much media out there and so much, of course, good
Oh,
media
yeah.
that inspires so many different people, and it's very easy to get caught up into the like, oh God, that sounds exactly like something I just did or want to do.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
there's a project that was announced, and they're like, "We're gonna be doing an African themed steampunk setting." I was like, "Motherfucker!" I was like, "That's
Yeah.
but it's just the concept of it. Like, no one's actually gone out and done a full show in that sort of
Right.
setting. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah. Not to
it's very
mention those they can still be totally different
totally
ideas,
different ideas. Yeah, uh,
you know?
but
There are so many times where you hear an idea and it almost feels like you're working against the clock. I mean,
mm,
Public Domains as an actual play, that series where you
yeah,
played Zorro, I mean, that was straight up me
no.
watching Adventuring Party, listening to Brennan tell Allie, "If we ever did a Public Domains campaign, you should be Winnie the Pooh." And I said, "Huh, watch me. Imma do it first.
Let's do it.
What's up?" And I
Uh,
did it.
I miss Sorrow.
And that was it. It was just like and I'm not the first person. Once Upon a Time is a TV show.
Mhm.
Kingdom Hearts. There's trillions of examples of Kingdom Hearts isn't public domains, but you know what I mean? Like
One day.
using all the different like things and bringing them together, like using different sources of one theme, whether it's Disney like Kingdom Hearts or like something else and pulling it all together. Like
Yeah.
that's been done a million times. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was just our time to do it with our own vibes and our own flavor.
Yeah,
Make it
because
our own.
it's so easy to get caught up in that whole entire rigmarole of
But what if people think it's gonna look like this or sound like that?
just do it. Just
Just do it.
do it.
Hey, they will. Hey, they
Hey,
will.
they will. It
They
doesn't
will,
matter.
and you
Just
can't
do it.
stop them. And you can't even stop them, and who cares? Because I'll tell you what, ever since Severance season 2 came out, I have 3 pages of notes on how I can do Severance in an actual play. Like, I'm
He's
thinking of all these
listen, let me
obscure
cook.
ways. Here's my one idea, and this is all I'll say because we'll get into a rabbit hole,
Pitch it to me.
is 2 different casts. One cast plays the
Mm.
innies and one cast plays the outies, so they never interact.
Ah.
That's just one idea.
I vaguely see where you're going with this. I haven't watched Severance yet.
Oh, okay, well,
I
that's a
hear it's a
huge part of it.
masterpiece.
That's a huge part of it. But anyway,
That
I say this because I'm coming up with all of these ideas. I've talked about it with like other creators, and I'm going in the rabbit hole about coming up with an idea of how to make Severance work in an actual play. And Pixel Circus, another tabletop and gaming, content creator on YouTube and stuff, done some great stuff. But they just did a Severance thing with like
mm,
Carlos Luna of Dimension 20 and
yeah.
stuff. And but they did a straight up like we're calling it Severance. The whole thing starts with people getting out of an elevator, and we do the cool little camera effect where we change the lens so that it looks like their severance is being activated. Again, you have
Mhm.
to watch the show to understand some of these
Right,
references,
right, right.
but they were just doing like a shot by shot. It almost felt like,
Mhm.
and I watched 10 minutes of it. No offense to them. I mean, they have done some insanely high quality shit. I
Yeah.
love them. This was it was like a one shot thing where they're just seizing on the popularity of Severance. And so they make a
Yeah.
video where they're playing Severance, but a tabletop role playing game. And it was boring right off the bat because I was like, I've seen the show. I don't need to
Yeah.
see this. You're adding nothing.
Mm.
And that's, I think, where I would come in with my crazy Severance ideas where I'm like, no, but let's do it in a wild way. So I think that's the thing. It's not enough to just like take the Mona Lisa. That's
Mhm.
boring. Take the Mona Lisa and do something wild with it.
And make it your
Then
own and transform it into a way that's unique to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's whatever that means for you. It could just be changing the tone, playing into the tropes and the theme even more so to almost
Mhm.
create like a full satire effect, or you can go play against trope. I mean, we've done that a number of times where it's
Yeah.
like things are very horrific and scary, but then jokes are happening left and right.
Mhm.
So many different ways. I love playing with the relationships of things and expectations.
And you do a whole bunch of that in season 2.
Yeah,
And
big time.
so, we recorded the pre-recorded the whole entire season. It's done. We know how it ends. But
Mhm, mhm.
out of that experience of doing season 2, like what was something that popped out that you didn't expect? I know a lot of
Mm.
times, especially as a dungeon master, you can have that kind of setup of like, I got a pretty good feeling of how this is going to turn out or this story beat or this and that. But did you have, anything that kind of surprised you or kind of changed the way that you approach telling the story for season 2?
Um, hmm. I think for the most there were, like, certain aspects that went as I expected, largely speaking, and then there were smaller things that I think were really, really interesting to me. Like, I
Mhm.
really enjoyed John's almost
John is
the
the
word
character I
duplicitous
play in
always has
season
a
2.
yeah, yeah. The word duplicitous has such a negative concept with it, but almost a two-faced nature of it. Two-faced as in the Batman character, not John being shifty, but
Yeah.
the way that you would talk to your child as opposed to any of the assorted enemies along the way.
Yeah.
Like just seeing this like to use like an animal, excuse me, to use like an animal expression of like mama bear attitude of just going from like the such a cuddly, compassionate, caring, helpful, thoughtful, good listener, all this stuff to just like truly the most frightening ever.
A
And the
very
shift in
violent man.
tone, yeah, the shift in tone of that character, the range was really surprising for sure. Because there were a couple moments of asking you to describe your character abilities, and the way that you described them was just intense and brutal enough for me to be a little gobsmacked at times. I think there was a counter spell that really caught me off guard the first
You
time.
first, yeah. But uh, uh you know, so much of recording that was so fun. But this is the first time that you've pre-recorded the entire season before it airs instead of doing live. Done
Mhm.
6
Yeah.
series live.
Yeah.
So what are the pros and cons of having done both?
Ooh. Well, first pro is just having the experience of doing both. I think
Mm,
there's something about doing it live that is like no other. It is a certain adrenaline rush and a certain a level of stress that can be really depending on how you handle that sort of stress. For me, incredibly positive. As
yeah.
soon as it starts, right? Like 10 minutes before that, I'm like
It's
freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is it." Deep
do I even
breaths,
remember how to play D&D? Oh god.
right? I'm like rereading notes. But once it starts, I'm in it. I love it. I love the pacing that you are that is thrust upon you as doing live shows. Like just the thrill of having to pace a game and be like,
Mhm.
we have to end it this time. Ooh, that's fun. Pre-recording, you don't really have to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're still trying to shoot for certain times just to use everybody's, time
Schedule and
respectfully and their
yeah.
scheduling and stuff. But you end 10 minutes early, you end 10 minutes late. It's not the end of the world. But
Yeah.
for certain live shows, especially if you're doing like a very long multi-hour stream and you're just one block of it, man, there's nothing like that adrenaline of being like, we have to end at this time. And so I
Oh,
have to wrangle this group of cats and get them all together, and so that we can finish the BBG and get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-recording, ideally, the reason we started it was to help with scheduling in multiple facets, both the actual recording schedule itself, just being able to ideally in the future record an entire series in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, as opposed to once a week for 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the post-production editing schedule. The idea was that it would ease my life a little bit by allowing me more time to edit and to chew on this a little bit and not feel rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those 6 actual plays that all came out live, for the most part, a edited, like fully edited VOD came out on YouTube almost, and podcast form, like a week within posting of the live
Yeah,
episode.
you normally have it up by like every
Tuesday,
show was
like
live
Tuesday or
Thursday,
Wednesday the
up by
next week.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I was crushing it at that time, but it was putting so much stress and pressure on me, and like I was starting to truly lose it for a little bit. I like completely stopped posting to like other socials. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
my home games were suffering. I was just like, man, I just can't edit any faster than I'm already editing, and it's hard. The biggest pro to that same scheduling, though, of doing it that fast, having that turnover, is you essentially are rewatching your sessions. So you get all the little pieces of information that you might have missed, because like, I don't know about you when you're a DM, but when I'm a DM, I don't take great notes. I'm so focused on everything else that I'm not good at being like, oh, the PC just mentioned a tiny little detail that I forgot. Let me write that down. I'll forget things like that.
Yeah,
But then when you're editing,
I've never understood
you pick up
people being
all
like,
of it.
This is my DM notebook. Yeah, this is just for the notes
I already
take.
have. Yeah,
What?
you take more notes. I already
What?
took the notes. That's called prep. I'm done with notes.
How are you doing that while you're talking? I'm sorry, what?
I have too much to do. I simply can't. And so through the editing process, you pick up so much because you're literally watching the entire episode again, but you're pausing every 10 freaking seconds. So every little tiny detail of just being like, oh, that's interesting the way that Daniel referred to his character's kid in that moment. Like, I didn't really notice that the first time round. I'll add this cool sound so that and then I'll make a note, next session, do this. Or like, even in public domains, I think I through the editing process found my own plot hole that I had to fill, where it was like I gave Jen's character, Vanessa Helsing, I gave her a ticket to like an evil church of Dracula or something, and she goes there and the people there are like, we didn't send that for you, and she was just like, oh, okay. And then that was it. And it was just like, why did that happen? And I was like, thank God I'm editing this. So that's hard because in the pre-recording, I didn't even finish editing episode 1 by the time we were already recording like episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a lot of that same like. I think there's a major villain whose name changes between episode 1 and the rest of the series. Dominic Inferno in episode 1, only one time, but I call him Infuego, and then never again.
Same difference.
It's so close. Infuego, Inferno, fire jokes because he's a fire giant. Ha ha ha. But still, it was like going through the editing and being like, fuck. How? We're doing episode 7 tomorrow. So like, what did I say the rest of the time? Like, oh no. Oh well. Whatever it is. Like, I guess I'll just do pickups or something.
Just roll.
I'll figure it out.
You can do like a fun, like a dub over, like a bad dub.
Yeah,
of a foreign film. Lip flaps don't match at all.
I already add so many silly, dumb things with the editing. Like the most recent thing I edited without like doing spoilers or anything is you guys fighting manure monsters.
Oh yeah.
And every time you guys like slice them with your sword or punch them or whatever it is, there's just
There's
exactly.
this.
Yeah, there's like the sound of the knife being like
Yeah.
and it's just every time, and it's just me sitting. It took me like 5 minutes to go through a series of fart noises and be like, not that one. That one's crazy. That one's unprofessional. Actually, let's do this next one. Oh, that one's too wet. Moving on. Next one.
That's a bit.
And that's
That's
what
the
I'm doing
process.
sometimes.
But
Yeah.
you've got all this experience now underneath your belt. You've done the pre-recorded, you've done live. What is that key piece of advice that you would give to someone who's sitting there like you were months and months ago being like, I have this really cool idea and I have a
Mm,
couple of friends who would love to do this game. What is
yeah.
the thing you would tell them to get them off of their butts and to just hit record and start a show?
Oh, if you wait for everything to be perfect, you're just never gonna get started. It's
Mm.
better to learn as you go than never start. So it's just like all of those silly, God, every Gary Vaynerchuk fucking quote is coming to my brain right now about having patience in the macro and like impatience in the micro, and just being like, sometimes you just have to freaking go for it.
Mm.
And that's true. It really is just like sending it.
Yeah.
Because if you, our entire motto at this point has been like, and I've said this to a lot of people, our motto is stupid but good. And of course, people will try and almost defend my own I'm the one claiming that's our saying, but people will try and defend me immediately and go, well, you're right. They're not stupid. And I go, no. They're stupid. But here's the thing. We execute them well, and then they become good.
Good.
So now they're not stupid in an actually like hurtful way. They're stupid in a funny way where it's like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Because why else would we do like the Mythos University was just, what if ancient Greek myths were at a normal college experience? Because fraternities and sororities, that phrase is called Greek life. And that's where the entire idea came from, was just the phrase Greek life. What would it look like if Zeus and all these different, ancient mythological characters went to a normal Animal House style university and started building off of there? And it was like, that's such a stupid idea, but it's good if you do it well. And so you just have to like put some effort into it and just do it. And then you'll learn as you go, and just ideas just continue to grow and get better and better and better. And like the more times that I've run Sphynx City, I've now worked in different friends' PCs as NPCs, and now they're part of the world, and it makes the world even richer. And now Sphynx City is better because I have played through it with multiple groups. Like one day we will run a Kickstarter where we attempt to pay a bunch of artists and designers to help us create a setting book for Sphynx City. And it will include things like shitcoin, which never would have, for those who are unfamiliar, shitcoin is a fantasy cryptocurrency that is used in the sewer civilization underneath Sphynx City, a town populated by crocodile folk. That's what shitcoin is. And that wouldn't have existed if I didn't do the actual play, because that was a PC making a silly joke. I was just referencing cryptocurrency because I thought it was funny for this NPC to be like really into crypto. So he's just like, yeah, crypto. It's the blockchain. You got to check it out. Oh yeah, there's this crypto that they use down in the sewers. And one player whose character wasn't even in the scene. One character just as a dad joke just goes, shitcoin. And I go, that's what it's called. That's canon.
That's what it's called.
And now maybe we'll have merch that has shitcoin on it. And it's like that, those ideas, the idea of Meatloaf and like all these connections, the fact that there is may or may not be an assassin hotel inside of Sphynx City, like that's part of it now. I had my home game version of Sphynx City go into that assassin hotel because they
Yeah.
found out that the hotel was important. They didn't know it was an assassin hotel yet. But yeah, 2 of them got attacked. The masseuses, they were not the real masseuses. They were
Dun, dun, dun.
biased masseuses who came in, and as soon as they started rubbing their shoulders, they went for the neck.
Just go
And
strangle.
Briar Darkclaw, who in our home game is your NPC, but now it's reversed. She's the PC and John Smith is the NPC.
Yeah.
Calls Briar and's like, hey, something's going on at the hotel. And she's like, oh man. And she calls the front desk. She says, hey, I got the Electrum piece. Like, can you take care of this? And the person has to break into the masseuse room. So much fun. So my advice, yeah, just go for it, man. Just do it, dude.
Just
Come
do it.
on. If not now, when? Because you're just going to keep putting it off, and then you're going to get another idea for something else. Now what?
Exactly.
You're going to constantly be getting more and more ideas. I can't tell you how bittersweet it is to be locked into a level 1 to level 20 campaign that's been going 4.5, almost 5 years strong. And all I want to do is finish it. As much fun as I have in that campaign, we're at level 14. So much fun, but I have thousands of ideas. And I want to try all these different ideas, but you can only run so many actual plays during the fucking year.
Yeah.
Because we like doing the series, because it gives players a chance to get into characters and we get invested and it feels more legit, you know? I'm not interested in doing a ton of one-shots.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the system. There are some systems where one-shots are almost
More
like mandatory,
accommodating
but
for it.
yeah.
I think that's incredible advice. And with all of that being said, I think looking at everything from this journey that you've been on of discovering your passion for storytelling and performance and the friendships and bonds that you've created through this platform that you've built and through your journey of playing TTRPGs, what is it that playing TTRPGs have taught you the most about yourself? Whether it's through the exploration of the characters that you've played and how that's helped you express yourself or your identity and your exploration of gender, or whether it's the way that
That's probably going to be the answer.
DMing has taught you the most about yourself and your own creativity. Just what has this genre taught you the most about yourself?
Well, I think like a lot of non-binary people, and I'm sure like trans people would also fall under this sort of generic stereotype of like when you are playing either a video game or a role-playing game where you get to make a character, it's a lot of fun to play with that character's gender and to explore new things, right? That being said, I definitely, in my D&D career, before I came out of the closet as bisexual or non-binary or anything like that, I played characters that were those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I played a bisexual barbarian before I remember because this is back when I still drank, and I drank a lot of wine one night, and I posted on Instagram a picture of a battle axe, that one that has this on the both sides. You know what I'm talking about? Like that specific type of axe that has like a blade on both sides. Yeah. And it said I swing both ways. And that was my coming out post of being like, I'm bi. Because I was playing a bi barbarian at the time. And so it was very apropos.
What year was this? It was like 2000.
I was 30. Okay, so 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, gotcha. I came out real late in life. I have like a really interesting history, like when it comes to my own sexuality and gender and stuff like that. Yeah. Like a real rough patch in high school with it, and some really unhealthy behaviors and different things and stuff. And so I didn't come out until way later. To where I finally felt comfortable. And it was one of those things of like, not necessarily like, I always knew my mom and dad would be like, they wouldn't give a shit.
Mm.
It was more about me. It was less, it's not even about other people. Because, you know, you always have that one friend who's like, I can't believe you didn't tell me you were bi, dude. You couldn't tell me. And it's like, bro, it's not even about you. Actually, back up, man.
What are you talking about?
My sexual awakening has fuck all to do with you, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the same with gender was just like the idea of like playing. I mean, I've been doing that my entire life. Playing femme characters and female characters and picking Peach and like fucking everything except for Smash Bros because they did her dirty in that game. She should be so much cooler. But then like I think it's taught me a ton. I mean, it's taught me just the limitlessness of storytelling
Mhm.
and the responsibility to have certain limits.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's been the
Dive
craziest
into
journey.
that.
And
The limits.
that's more true in the public space,
Yeah.
potentially.
Mm.
Potentially that's more true in the public space. But like I certainly have found myself like there's the limitless of it of like bringing in more people to the space itself and having more diverse people who are slowly being introduced into not just D&D but tabletop role-playing games in general, and that therefore creates more stories.
Mm.
You know, there's like a really famous TED Talk by a woman from Nigeria, and she talks about the number of stories and the idea that if you're from America and you only hear of one story of Nigeria, your entire concept of Nigeria gets painted through that one story. Versus if you hear hundreds of stories, you now have a more diverse view.
Yeah.
Right? So if one story is inaccurate, it at least is it is more of an outlier because you have more stories, you have more information. And so it was about the importance of storytelling because it can show multiple vantage points and stuff like that. And it was just like really, really powerful. So I think that's the limitless of it, is just the idea that like more people in the genre, more people to tell stories, all good. The responsibility to put limits on it comes from multiple points. I think the first and most clear in a practical logistical way is just like the consent and safety checklist, just making sure that you're not hitting trigger topics without, you know, expectation or things that people aren't comfortable treading on, whatever that may be. But then also into certain aspects of storytelling when it comes to like having responsibility for your own identity and kind of knowing the integrity of like what types of stories you should be telling, maybe.
Mm.
So like the joke I always tell, like I like to do a lot of voices and accents and stuff like that. But if you've watched most of our actual plays, there are some accents that I'll just never do.
Yeah.
And it's straight up, this is like half joke. It's not because I can't do them maybe in a decent way, but it's not the point. It doesn't matter if I can do a West Indies accent or something like that, right? Like that's not the point. It's not how good my like specific province and Chinese accent could be. That's not the point. I probably, you know, maybe with enough practice, I could probably get it where it's pretty accurate. Not
should
the point.
You be the one doing
Exactly, right? That's the point. Is just the idea that it's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be the one to tell a story that's about X, Y, and Z colonialism and something to that effect. And so that's been an interesting aspect of it. Relinquishing a certain level of control in that way of being like, hey man, I just can't do this story. Which is interesting because another thing I've learned about myself through tabletop role-playing games as a DM specifically is my my safety reliance, like if that makes sense. I'm like in combining words. Like it makes me feel safe to be the DM because of the control I have. You know what I mean? Like a control freak kind of way. Like when you're at the airport and people are standing in line and you're like, they didn't call your zone. Sit the fuck down. And then your sister has to be like, we have assigned seats. chill the fuck out. And it's like,
But
no, they're not listening to the rules. And I'm mad now. And it's like, hey, it doesn't even matter. We have assigned seats. Nothing will happen. And
Yeah.
still, I'm like, yeah, but I can't control the situation though.
Well, I think control freak is it can be a bit of a strong word, and I think in the
It
sense
is,
that
yeah.
it gives, I think a sense of control is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, it can be unhealthy depending on how a dungeon master or a game master wields it, and then you end up in a
Right,
Crit
right,
Crab
right.
video, or you end up on a D&D horror stories.
Oh, boy.
But the way that you control it to create an environment that allows for a sense of freedom and expression and exploration, I think in that regard, instead of, you know, taking that same analogy, instead you're actually feeling like you're the pilot now, guiding everyone
Mm.
safely towards the destination that you want,
Whoa.
you know? And there's a lot
Yeah.
more safety and control in that regard. There still is that risk. There's still that fear of like, oh, we're still in the air. We're still putting ourselves out there. We're pretty high
Yeah.
up. But, you know, you have that experience now that, and it shows. And it shows in the way that you've been conducting
Appreciate it.
yourself and the way that you've been using your platform. And again, no matter how big or how small the platform is, making sure that you're using your voice and creating a safe space. It shows in the work that you've been doing. And I've been incredibly proud of the work that you've been doing, and it's been a privilege to be a part of it.
Amazing.
So again, thank you, Justin, for being a part of this conversation. And remember, folks, April 3rd is going to be the premiere of Sphynx City Season 2. We're incredibly excited to share this with you all. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be there in the Twitch chat, chatting it up with everybody when the season premieres, April 3rd, premiering on Twitch, and then it will be available at a later date, not sure exactly when, on YouTube following as well. But
Probably
also,
the following week, but yeah, I'm not sure on the specific day. But
it will be there, though.
pretty shortly after the Twitch premiere, yeah.
But I know that is not all the things you have to promote. So, Justin, the floor is yours. Whatever it is that you want to promote, shows, platforms, things you got going on in your life, let the people know.
Well, I would just suggest that you follow us wherever you can. Whatever apps that you have, whether that be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Patreon, Discord, we're pretty much everywhere. Blue Sky included. So definitely just check us out at So You Want to Be a DM or So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master, the podcast. We are available. We want everyone to try being a dungeon master. That's the big thing. So I would start with the podcast, branch out from there. We have tons of stuff going on and we continue to grow and try new ideas. And so any help and support along the way is appreciated.